What should Revelation do to us? Well, Luke chapter 1, verse 77, that's a verse you probably hear at Christmas time often. It's also a motivator. This is what Revelation, understanding this book, did to the early church and can do to us. This is what it says in verse 77, to give knowledge of salvation to his people by the remission of their sins through the tender mercies of our God, with which, verse 78, the dayspring from on high has visited us. Look at verse 79, to give light to those who sit in darkness. For just a moment, I want to tell you about a conference Bonnie and I were at. There were missionaries that serve in the 64 closed, limited access countries of the world, and one of them is serving in Myanmar, and it's called the darkest spot on earth. And they got up, and as they shared their story of what God was doing in that country, they said, we're in the north. The north is the darkest spot on earth. 90% of all the men are addicted to heroin, to opiates, to what they grow there and sell, the drugs. And they says over 90% of the men are addicted. There's a civil war, the longest one going on in the world's history in that place. And there are more demon shrines in the northern part of Myanmar than any other part of the world, these shrines at the top of every hill. And they just wept as they talked about how hard it was, how dark it was, how much spiritual oppression they felt. But then they looked at us and they said, we do it because we want to shine the light of the gospel and share the word of God in the darkest spot on earth. Did you know they'd never do that if they wanted to be comfortable? They talked about how hard it was to go to the market and carry every drop of water. It's certainly inconvenient to live there. No one really knows what they're doing because they can't be there according to the country. It's a closed country. They're very much without security. There's a war raging around them. They certainly didn't think that the Bible accepted them and kept them from obedience to go into all the world. And so they humbled themselves for the simple purpose of hearing us, well done. I want to close this course. 2 slides left. Here's the question. Who's the driver as you travel through life? You know what Galatians 2:20 says? I am crucified with Christ. So it's no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life I live today in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. This is the crucified life. You know how I like to illustrate it? Reminds me of my wonderful wife, Bonnie. We'll be driving across the country, and Bonnie will say, hey, can I drive? And usually I like to drive. But if I want her to drive, you know what I have to do? I have to put on the blinker, I have to pull over to the side of the road, I have to put it into park, I have to turn off the car, I pull out the keys, I get out of my door, I walk all the way around, open her door, and I hand her the keys. And I say, you can drive. That's what surrender to the Lord and getting his well done is about. Every day of your life, getting up and saying, Lord, I'm pulling over my life to start this day. I want you to drive all day. And put it in gear, turn off the car, hand him the keys, and put him in the driver's seat. Are you going to pull over your life each day and hand the keys to Christ and get in the passenger seat? Who is the driver? Galatians 2:20 said it should be Christ.